You'll never guess where I've been today. As you know, I'm not someone who likes gossiping or spreading rumors, but I've been wondering about Laura. You know, my neighbor across the hall. She's been getting up really early recently, which is unusual, and has been out of the house every day until about 5:30 p.m., always arriving just before Jim, her husband, gets back. Now, I know she doesn't need to work because Jim has a good job in the stock market, and I didn't like to ask her where she was going. So this morning, I decided to follow her. Oh, aren't I terrible? The thing is, I've always suspected that there's something funny about that girl. She's just too perfect and polite, and she never talks about her past. Kurt says to me, "You're just a nosy neighbor, leave her alone and get a life." But I just can't help it. I'm concerned. So anyway, on this day, at 9 a.m. on the dot, she headed off down the main road and must have been walking for about 5 minutes before stopping a taxi. Being a complete idiot, I decided to hail a taxi myself. It was just like being in the movies. I was telling the taxi driver all about it when suddenly Laura's taxi stopped and she got out of the car. We were just at the edge of town by the Hippodrome at this stage. I wasn't sure what to do because the taxi seemed to be waiting for her while she went into Bert's bakery. But finally, she came out carrying a big box, which I guessed was a cake, and got back in the taxi. Then, we must have been driving for about 40 minutes when the taxi stopped in this little town called Brooksville. I'd never heard of it before. It looked a little poor, if you know what I mean. Anyway, we got out of our taxis, and I followed Laura down a dark, overgrown path to a wooden house. I watched her knock on the door, and an old lady came out, not looking too happy to see her, I must add. And then a little blonde-haired boy, he must have been 8, ran out shouting, "Mommy, Mommy, what did you bring?" I was so shocked, I think I might have shrieked, and at that moment, Laura turned around and saw me. She was absolutely furious and gave me the most deadly look. As you can imagine, I ran out of there as fast as I could and almost broke my heel on the path. Eventually, I managed to find a bus to take me back to town. I didn't have enough cash for another taxi. I was glad to be back, I can tell you. Of course, I haven't spoken to Laura since all this happened. I suppose I need to keep my mouth shut. Jim and Laura haven't been married for long, about 3 years, I think. And they don't have any children yet. I don't want to upset them, but it really is very suspicious. Who was that little boy, I want to know? And why did he call her Mommy?